Hello viewers, welcome to African Innovation Landscape, a program brought to you by Idea TV, the first innovation television in Africa. On this program, we hold thought-provoking conversations with African change leaders in science, technology, and innovation. We celebrate them for transforming communities and pushing boundaries in invention and innovation. This is where ideas meet impact, and today I'll be joined by a trailblazer who has shown and proven herself worthy of all the accolades that she's been getting. She is no other than Her Excellency, the first female president of the Republic of Mauritius. We're going on a quick break. After the break, you hear about her. All right, before we went on that break, I told you that I'm joined on this show by the first female president of the Republic of Mauritius, Her Excellency, Professor Ameenah Gurib-Fakim. I'll just run through her bio for you so you see what I was saying earlier. Her Excellency, Professor Ameenah Gurib-Fakim, the sixth and first female president of the Republic of Mauritius between 2015 and 18, is a globally renowned biodiversity scientist, entrepreneur, and a passionate advocate for sustainable development and women's empowerment. A distinguished professor of organic chemistry and endowed chair at the University of Mauritius, she co-authored the groundbreaking African Herbal Pharmacopoeia. As a founding member of the Pan-African Association of African Medical Plants, she has authored and co-edited over 30 books and other numerous scientific articles on biodiversity, conservation, and sustainable development, cementing her reputation as a leading voice in environmental science. She has lectured extensively across the globe and served on the editorial boards of major scientific journals. Throughout her presidency, Professor Ameenah championed science, innovation, and sustainable development, integrating technology into policy making to drive economic diversification and reduce reliance on traditional industries. A vocal advocate for women's rights who empowered women and youth through education and capacity building initiatives. Her advocacy for Pan-African collaboration highlighted the importance of indigenous knowledge and biodiversity in addressing critical challenges such as food security and health care. Professor Gurib-Fakim has been honored with numerous prestigious accolades, including the L'Oreal UNESCO Prize for Women in Science, the Legion d'Honneur and Benazir Bhutto Lifetime Achievement Award, recognized among Forbes' 100 Most Powerful Women, and also recognized as Africa's most powerful woman. Even right now, she continues to inspire the world with her relentless dedication to innovation, sustainable solutions, and global progress. Ladies and gentlemen, a true trailblazer who exemplifies visionary leadership and an enduring legacy that resonates far beyond the shores of Africa, Her Excellency Ameenah. Good to have you, ma.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
You.
I mean, when I saw your bio initially, I just said, Chinatu, what are you doing with your life? This is such an inspiration. Okay. So how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
I must comment that you're looking astonishing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So you know the founder of Idea TV, Professor Solomon Waka, and his work in promoting African research and innovation. When we interviewed him on this program, he mentioned that finance and lack of intra-African collaboration and knowledge gap is a problem in African innovation. Do you agree with his school of thought, or do you think contrary?
I would say that ideas are not lacking. There are many very important research taking place in many universities. He rightly said the issue of finance. The issue of finance, and not just the issue of finance, but also the intellectual property protection, which prevents many researchers from taking their ideas across the valley of death to become enterprise, a thriving enterprise. And this is where we had to learn a lot from many places like the United States, for example, and of course Asia. The tigers that have emerged, especially after the Second World War. And so this, if we put all these ingredients together, I don't see why we will not be able to make important steps ahead. But we need to create the ecosystem first. And this is where the leadership of Africa matters. They need to actually enable this to happen so that academics, researchers, or anybody with an idea can join that incubator, that's a science spark, and of course generate, develop the ideas, and of course become job creators. That's essentially the goal at the end of the day. And by generating these kind of jobs, of course, you're increasing the per capita of the country, and the rest, of course, is history.
All right. Thank you so much for giving us that insight. I'd just like to find out also, why do you think that African research results just end in the laboratories? Because we've seen situations where people think of ideas, they start doing things, and then the next thing is just in the laboratory. Why is it not hitting the market?
Well, that's what I just said, that our universities have not developed the culture of safeguarding and protecting our intellectual property. If you take, for example, many universities in South Africa, a PhD thesis may not be published straight away because the university has decided that they need to embargo it because they are applying for patent application and protection of the IP, and then they can publish it. Having said this, if you look at some of the ideas that are generated, which may not be fantastically innovative, but still can provide solutions. And this is where we need that kind of leadership to help it to be actually taken out to the local market and help improve livelihoods. This kind of impact research matters, and we need to see to it that it happens on the ground and help, for example, local farmers or people working in the energy sector or many other sectors which are vital to the economy of that region, of that country.
All right, with what you just said now, it just makes the next question I was going to ask you very vital. Because, these things happen. And I think that part of why they occur is that we have not come to the point where we realize that there are opportunities in this sector.
Yes.
So I'd like you to just shed more light. What do you think are the opportunities in innovation in Africa?
Oh, we can have. There can be so much to be done. And again, I will kind of break this mindset that you need a lot of money to make things happen. It doesn't have to be. But we need to recognize it, recognize the spark which is being generated somewhere, which can have application in any sector. If you look at, for example, as I just mentioned, the idea of STEM, the idea, of energy, the idea of agriculture, so many sectors where the little bit of innovation can make big changes. And here I have in mind the energy sector. 600 million people across Africa do not have access to full-fledged energy. Yeah. And we know that energy is the lifeblood of any economy. So any addition to this sector to bring energy to the household, to bring energy, for example, to the child at night doing his or her homework, it matters. So we need to encourage this kind of grassroots innovation to change the livelihoods of, and of course eventually it will snowball and get bigger. But we need to start there. And again, as I said, it doesn't involve a lot of money, but it involves creating the ecosystem, recognize the potential, and then help them grow.
Yes, I like that you've also said this, because you see, we all know there is a problem, but the issue is fixing the problem, which is why I'd like you to, speak to our leaders directly. What do they need to do to ensure that these things are sorted? Leadership has to come to play here. From our school down to the home, down to the farm. What does the government need to do to ensure that research and innovation in Africa is thriving? So people don't just think that, oh, who is a farmer? A farmer is a poor person. Oh, I can't be a farmer. I can't be this person. We've seen those cases. But if you speak to leaders, I'm sure that something can be done.
Leaders depend on votes to get elected. And we are increasingly seeing that the youth, the average age of the young person in Africa is 19. Yeah. So they're eligible to vote, right? And we see that by 2050, the population of Africa will be 2.5 billion, right? And the average age will be around that much. So these young people, this young population, they can be a boon, but they can become a bane. And if we don't channel that reservoir of energy into creative sectors, they stand to lose. When I say they, I mean the leaders. So what they have to do is invest in them, invest in the youth. And you invest in the youth by creating ecosystem that they can go and journal the idea and get results. Another sector that leaders have to, excuse me, another sector that the leaders have to do is invest in their education. And by investing in the education, I mean make sure that they're getting really quality education. The education I got as a child is no longer valid to the youth of today. So invest in education, invest in the infrastructure, and these people will become drivers of change. And we need them. And it is through them that Africa will emerge. And I have said all the time, the future of Africa is not in the minds, but in the minds of our young people. So that's what we have to do, and drive the change through them, but make sure we value them, we value their intelligence, we value their creativity, we value their talents, and this is how we will change the mindset. And one area you have mentioned already is agriculture is not a poor man's job, right? Agriculture is now high in technology. It involves a lot of high technology, high-end precision agriculture, you name it, it's all there. And we need agriculture more than ever, because whomsoever invests in food security invests in the safety of that country. And by safety, we mean, of course, security, stability, you name it, it's all there.
Okay, I like that you said that. I mean, we have to actually go back to making sure that people who study agriculture, I'm really saying this because recently I was at an event, and when they asked people, would you love to be farmers? They said no. A lot of people raised their hands, and these were young people within the same age category. And it is because of the culture that's been imbibed in us. I was telling you earlier that I never aspired to be a farmer because of how it was presented. It was like, it's a poor man's job. Why would you be a farmer? You're not respected. But I'm very sure with the suggestions you've given now that with agro-smart technologies, things can be sorted.
Of course. Yeah.
Because the truth is, agriculture is the mainstay of any society. Okay, so you're a biodiversity scientist and an entrepreneur. Now, I want you to speak again to Africa. How do you think that Africa can leverage on its rich biodiversity and natural resources to, elevate its economic prowess?
Again, I will posit that within one sector. Let's look at the health sector. In Africa, you find that over 70% of the population depend on medicinal plants for their primary health care. 70%. And if you look at globally, you'll find that it's even more because countries in the West now, they're increasingly turning to green health. Africa has got a huge culture of medicine, traditional medicine. But where we are weak is that we've never valued this. And unlike China, China has been granted a Nobel Prize in 2015, precisely for the work that Professor Tu Youyou has done for artemisinin, and this we got the prize for that. But how many of us know that there is an equivalent of Chinese Artemisia in Africa, Artemisia afra, which is diverse in composition and can provide a lot of solution. So we haven't valued this sector at all. And yet, if we take only this sector and we put the scientific framework around it, we will get medicine, which is culturally accepted and acceptable. We will promote farming. We'll promote good agricultural practices. And this is one of the reasons why many African plants do not reach the global market, because we don't adhere to certain norms. So one sector can be tremendous, can have a tremendous impact on the health, the well-being, of course, the budget and everything else. Just one sector. And this, we can connect that to other sectors, because food can become our medicine and medicine can become our food. And this is a very African saying, right? And it is true. Again, it touches on agriculture. It also touches on transformation. Because if we can package these extract, we can validate them. We can, of course, make sure, harmonize it, because the plant, the composition, of course, varies during the day, during the year. But then this will bring in the research component behind. And if we bring in the research component behind, we actually will develop precisely our know-how and our infrastructure targeted for that research. So we'll be touching on many areas just on one sector. traditional knowledge. So a plea I have to make to our leaders, to our researchers, to everybody in Africa, let us learn to value our grandmothers' recipes. And I can say to you that today I'm standing on the shoulders of our grandmothers. They have been so generous in sharing the information with me, and with this I have been able to build a career.
Oh, wow.
So and I'm very grateful. So we need to value them, we need to recognize them, and we need to do what other countries have done, and they have benefited big time out of this knowledge. So go back, and of course by doing so, we'll also protect the biodiversity because we need them. And also mustn't forget that all the big farmers, they always have to come back to nature for that innovative molecule. So just to give you another example of where we stand, you know the very famous plant called iboga, which grows in West Africa. It goes into initiation ceremonies. That molecule of iboga has given rise to methadone, which is of course drug dependence. So there's so much which is out there, but we need to recognize, we need to value, we need to protect, and we need to propagate.
Thank you so much. You know, we've spoken a lot about herbs, and there's also a practice where we also believe a lot of Africans, now speaking from my background, where I come from, it's almost like, do not trust orthodox medicine, do not trust the herbs. You can't trust them. If it's not coming from a white collar, no, don't trust it. I don't know if you've heard any of that before.
Of course I do.
Wow.
And I've been knocked about because of that. I've been called a witch for having worked on plants.
I can imagine. I mean, you just see some herbs and you're like, don't, you have to. And the truth is, there are lots of secrets hidden in those things.
Exactly.
And we do not just know about them.
No, we need to keep on documenting, because if we don't document, you know, I'm very proud to say that my work is now at WIPO and constitute prior art. Wow. So anybody who wants to actually develop, use the plants, they can go back on my research, on my findings, and it also ensures protection as well, the intellectual property at the time.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. That's impressive. I'm
Yes.
sure that a lot of young people are
Yes.
already itching to go check it out. And so, let's talk about climate change in Africa. Our ozone layer is getting destroyed by the day. What is the problem? What can we do to mitigate this?
For Africa, you know, we have not generated greenhouse gas, and Africa will bear the brunt by virtue of, you know, we live in a global world, and we will be impacted by climate change. For Africa, it's not so much mitigation, it's much more adaptation. And we need the funds, we need the technology, we need the tools to be able to adapt. But unfortunately, you know, the way things are going, be it at many COPs and the way things are happening, we've had, for example, the Dubai meeting, we're having now the Baku meeting, before that we had the Glasgow meeting. We've had the Bridgetown Initiative, we've seen the loss and damage and all these great declarations, but there's still dollar less. So it's increasingly appearing that we're going to have to fund our own transition. And one area that can again help in this transition, although it's an emitter, agriculture, it can also be an absorber of greenhouse gas. So we're going to have to keep on planting, we're going to have to keep on growing, and we're going to have to pay for our own transition, unfortunately, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, we have to. Because you said this, and when I remember that the old woman in a community in Nigeria is only interested in using firewood to cook her food. And you tell her to use a gas cylinder, and she's like, do you want to kill me? It's about to burn my house. I can't try that. And so they rely on firewoods to cook.
Yes.
So for this kind of people, how would you even convince them? What do you even say to them to make them know that you are destroying your climate with all of this act? People burn bushes in Nigeria to farm.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation, because slash and burn has been practiced in many parts of the world. This issue is a local domestic one, right? The fire burning, the wood burning for cooking and all that. I'm thinking more globally. Globally, generally, 2% of greenhouse gases come from Africa. And yet we're seeing flooding, we are seeing fires, we're seeing drought, we're seeing the desert advancing and all this. And climate change is having an impact. But how do we do it? With what means are we going to do it? As I said, we are not going to get much help from elsewhere, because if you think about it, our economy, the global economy, is hundreds of trillions of dollars. And yet, since COP21 in 2015, the world still hasn't come together to provide the 100 billion funds, which was promised since the beginning. Now, some will say, okay, we have capitalized the COP21, the promise of 100 billion, but this 100 billion is not just grants, it's soft loans. So it is still have impact on poorer countries. And loans coming from all these, the day these countries raise the interest rate, we've had it. So it is still not there. So we're going to have to find ways and means of adapting and to these, and at the same time make our economies grow, because climate change will ravage the economies because all the negatives that go with it.
All right. I mean, I just want to hear you talk and talk and talk and talk, because it's every time we speak, it's another opportunity to learn. Well, that's how we concluded today on this episode of African Innovative Landscape. I am so glad that you came on this program, especially as an early guest. You're one of our early guests.
Thank you.
And so it means a lot to Idea TV that you came through. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
We hope that when we call you again, you'll be available.
Thank you so much.
All right, and to you viewers, it has been such a rewarding and of course an insightful conversation, hearing from a trailblazer, one woman who has done so much in science, innovation, and invention. Her Excellency, the first female president. I love that, because I mean, it gives me this extra spark of the Republic of Mauritius. Her Excellency, Ameenah Gurib-Fakim. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so until we come your way again, the program is still African Innovation Landscape, brought to you by Idea TV, the first innovation TV in Africa. My name is Chinatu Oji. Do not forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. Until we see you next time, it's bye for now.